I was hired for an IT role at a very large company. I am 38 years old, married, and I have a 4-year-old son. Everyone at work knows about my wife and son. However, after working there for about a year, I got very close to one of the female co-workers who works with me. She is a director and holds a high position within the company. It started with me doing a lot of things for her and her team and department, and over time she would always bring me snacks, cakes, and sometimes coffee. During my work hours, I go to the gas station every day to grab some snacks, and she noticed this and started getting me the snacks that I like and bringing them to my desk. At first, I thought she was just being nice and kind to me because I had done a lot for her work-wise. But then later, she started stopping by my desk and talking to me for an hour or half an hour, telling me all kinds of personal information about her life and what she does after work. She started asking me questions about my son and about my relationship with my wife, which I thought was weird. Every day during lunchtime, she would come by and stop by my desk and talk to me until lunch was over. Whenever she's not doing anything important at work or in a meeting, she'll stop by and make any excuse to stop by my desk, even if the excuse is silly. Now, it feels like it's so obvious that she just stopped by my desk just so she can talk to me. At the beginning of this, I really didn't feel any feelings for her. I was busy with my personal life and didn't want to do something stupid that would jeopardize my job. At the same time, although I had been with the company for over a year, I still felt like I was new. She had been with the company for over 12 years and is 39 years old, 1 year older than me. She is not married, and I know that, and I also know she doesn't have any kids. She also never mentioned anything about having a boyfriend, and I didn't ask her. I assume she doesn't have anyone, otherwise she would have mentioned him when we were talking about my wife and son. I can safely say that this girl is very attached to me, more than I am to her. Now, things are not great with my wife at home as we always have issues and fights. However, we also work on trying to make our relationship and marriage work. I hate to say this, but I find my wife sometimes to be very boring. Sex with her is boring and intimacy with her is boring. I have to initiate everything in order for her to do something. She never initiates anything on her own. I have to ask for it. She never cares about how she looks and never cares about any of the events going on in our lives. With this person at work, I feel so connected. I feel like I can talk about any topic with her, and she will talk to me about it. I feel like I could go on talking with her for hours and hours and never get bored. We are so connected on so many levels and in so many areas, and we share a lot of interests. We drink the same coffee, we love the same drinks, we love tea, we love quiet, we love sitting and watching nature. We love talking about politics, countries, travel, things that I miss doing with my wife and things that I have tried to do with my wife, but she never seems interested in doing those things. At this point, we're just chatting and getting along with each other at the office, but it's never been outside the office. I'm so excited to go to work now, and I've never felt that way before. I'm so drawn to go there every day, even if I go to bed late, I still have good energy to go and see her. On the days that I don't see her, I feel different, and I've even started making excuses to stop by and talk to her, just like she used to do with me when we first started talking. As the problems at home grew with my wife, I felt more and more drawn to this person, and I felt like she was kind of my escape. At this point, I feel like she is being very friendly with me and is very close to me, but we never exchanged phone numbers. So, one day we exchanged numbers, and since then we've been texting non-stop. We text each other 24/7, after we wake up, before we go to sleep. I started keeping my distance from my wife and she did the same with me, which was probably for the best because we didn't fight as much, and I was able to devote all my time to this person and my son. I started going to the office early and leaving late all because I wanted to see her, and she did the same. Our relationship grew and we started kissing and eventually had sex regularly. She has her own office, so we would meet there during the day while we were at work, or sometimes I would take days off from work and pretend I was going on a work trip so we could meet at a hotel and sleep there together, eat together, and do things together like a couple. When I first met her, she told me she was living with her family at her parents' house because she had just sold her condo and was looking for another one, so she was temporarily staying there, and that's why I couldn't come see her whenever I wanted to. That's why we have to get a hotel. I also want to mention that I can't come see her whenever I want to because my wife works the third shift, so when I come home from work, my wife has to go to work. So, I put my son to bed and take care of him for dinner and such. There are nights where I feel so guilty about what I'm doing. I feel like I'm betraying my wife because she has never done anything wrong to me, and I know for a fact that she doesn't talk to other people or do anything behind my back. I've been doing this for a while now with this other person, and I feel guilty about it. At the same time, when I try to talk to my wife about working things out, I always get shut down and I can't figure out how to communicate. It's worth mentioning that we tried going to marriage counseling. It was my wife's idea at first and I didn't want to do it, but she told me that I didn't want to work on our marriage. So, I eventually agreed to go, and we did about 9 sessions, but I really didn't feel like it was helpful at all. Most of the time, the counselor was just asking us to talk about our feelings and giving us suggestions about what needs to be done to fix our marriage. It was mostly just talking. He didn't really touch on any deeper issues or ask any meaningful questions, it was just non-stop questioning. It really didn't do anything to help us. When I go to the hotel with my work wife, I tell my wife I'm going to work so she can leave for her family's house and take my son with her. I feel more comfortable knowing they are with their family in case something happens, and they can take care of her and my son. One day we were at the hotel, and she gets a call from someone, and she seems very nervous. She tries to go by the bathroom door, but the room was so small that she had to walk around the room to make the conversation. It sounds like she trying to explain herself. She is telling the person on the phone that she is with her family, basically lying about where she is. All of a sudden, it started to feel like it's someone that she's with questioning her about where she is. She hung up the call and started crying non-stop. I tried to ask her what's going on and she said that was her boyfriend. I was shocked. Boyfriend? You never mentioned anything about a boyfriend. What's up with that? She said I never asked, and she said that their relationship wasn't working out and she was about to end it, but they were thinking about working things out, but she doesn't think it's going to work out and she's going to break up with him. At this point, many questions were floating through my head, including what have I gotten myself into? Now there's another guy involved in this whole thing, and I don't know what the situation with him is. I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him or anything about him until this night. She said she had to go and leave the hotel right away and go to her family's house because her boyfriend was waiting for her there at the door. So, I said to her, you need to explain to me what's going on. And she said that she had told him she was staying the night at her parents' house, and she wasn't going anywhere. So, he started to feel like something was going on and went to her parents' house and didn't see her car there, so he knew she wasn't there. So, he thought maybe she went to the store or somewhere to get a drink or something, and he waited outside for a while. That's when she didn't show up. After a while, he started calling her and she didn't answer. And that's when he suspected that she was with someone else, especially with all the weird work trips and staying late at work. She quickly left the hotel, and I was sitting there thinking, what the hell? I just paid for the hotel, and I didn't even use it. And here I am while my wife and kids are sitting at home waiting for me, thinking I'm on a work trip and feeling sorry for me because they think I'm working so hard to provide for them. And all this time, I've been cheating on my wife with this person who I just realized has a boyfriend that she lied about and didn't tell me anything about. And now this boyfriend is catching her. I sat there for a while and I thought, and I was feeling so stupid and so guilty about the whole situation in my life, especially with my wife trying to work things out with me, and I'm being so close-minded about it because of this person. I'm not sure if she's just keeping me on the side until she breaks up with her boyfriend, and then she'll be with me. The thing is, I've never mentioned to her that I have any problems with my wife. I always made it sound like we have a good relationship and I have a good family. When she asked me questions about why I'm doing this with her, why I'm cheating on my wife, I just say stuff like my wife is boring and she doesn't share the same interests as me and things like that, but I've never mentioned anything about how we always fight and don't get along together. Part of me wanted to just leave the hotel and go back to my family. The other part of me wanted me to stay there alone and just think and rethink everything. I decided to stay, and I'm glad I did. I decided that I would just try to fix things with my wife and go back to her and work on myself, work on my anger issues. I started to think about the things that my wife has said to me. I went back to our messages and read them all and realized what my wife was trying to say about how I flip out about everything, about how I'm nice one day and a jerk the next, about my mood changing all the time, about how she feels like she's always walking on eggshells around me because she's afraid to say something that will trigger my anger. About all the times I've yelled and screamed in front of my son, about the times I've hurt her in front of our son. All of it came together, and I was wrong as well. She is not perfect, and she is wrong in many areas, but I also realize that I was wrong. I just didn't see it. I'm not sure why my mind was clouded with this person, but it was a reality check for me. It stopped me from going into this situation with a closed mind and closed eyes. I couldn't sleep that Thursday night because I kept thinking about what would happen the next day when I saw her at the office. I wasn't sure what conversation I should have with her, other than asking why she didn't tell me that she had a boyfriend. I thought about breaking things off with her and going back to my normal life, apologizing to my wife for everything I did and promising to be a better person and be there for my son. I would never mention any of the events with this person to my wife, because it would end my marriage, and I don't want that. The next day, I went home, and my wife greeted me warmly, dressed up and with a clean house. She made dinner for me, and we had a nice night together. The following day, when I went to the office, my ex-girlfriend, or mistress, I'm not sure what else to call her, wasn't there. It was a relief that she didn't come, because I didn't want to deal with it, especially after trying to fix things with my wife and get my family back in order. On Saturday night, I received a text message from her saying, "Hey, what's up?" I waited 45 minutes before answering to make it seem like I was busy. When I asked her what was up, she said she wanted to explain everything and asked if we could meet. I said no because I was watching my son and my wife was working. She asked to meet once more, and I said we could meet for coffee at Panera on Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I met with her. She was cold and not very talkative, just saying hi and asking how I was doing. Then she apologized for that night and said she was sorry. She explained that her relationship with her boyfriend was dying, and she didn't want to bring me into the mess. She said we should stop seeing each other and all the messing around because she was going to work things out with her boyfriend. They were planning to move in together and work on their relationship. I asked if they were getting married, and she said no, just working on their relationship and moving in together. I wished her luck, and that was it. I didn't mention anything about my wife because she doesn't know that things aren't going well with her. Essentially, this person broke things off with me, and it was a relief because I didn't have to do it. However, things started to feel awkward between us because she seemed to be avoiding me and not talking to me, even about work-related things. When the company we work for allowed us to work from home and take time off for the holidays in November and December, I didn't see her much. Fast forward to January, when I returned to the office after a long time off. Suddenly, she was friendly and all over me again, just like when we first started our relationship. I was confused because she had been distant and acting weird for the past 2 months. The next day, I found a coffee and a note from her saying good morning with a tiny heart on my desk. I thought about texting her to thank her for the coffee, but I didn't want to start things up again because she never gave me a good reason for keeping the fact that she had a boyfriend from me for so long. During lunchtime, I went to my car in the parking lot, and she was there, parking very close to me. It seemed like she was planning it because she suddenly got out of her car and walked by me as if it was a coincidence. I said hi and thanked her for the coffee, and she said you're welcome. I asked her if she wanted to join me for lunch at Panera, something we used to do when we used to hang out. She started telling me about her boyfriend, how he is always jealous and controlling, and how he is verbally abusive. She said she doesn't trust him, and their relationship has been on and off for a long time. She said that last month they sat down and decided to break up and go their separate ways. She said she has thought about it a lot and can't see herself raising kids with him. I kept it formal and told her I was sorry to hear that, not adding my own thoughts or opinions like I used to. We didn't talk the rest of the day. On the drive home, I thought about the situation and how she was coming back to me now that she didn't have a boyfriend. I found myself in a rabbit hole, wondering what she wants from me. Does she want a side guy, someone to marry her, or a boyfriend? I asked myself if I should continue seeing her as a side chick, but that wouldn't be fair to my wife. I started to think about all the good times we had together, but at the same time, the thought of my wife, our house, and our child kept going through my head. I tried to keep things as formal as possible that week to give myself time to think. Should I stay with my wife, who I barely see because of our work schedules? My wife and I feel more like roommates than a married couple. We barely have sex, don't talk about anything interesting, and when she's not working, she's tired. I end up spending most of the night alone. Our child sleeps with us most of the time too, so one of us sometimes sleeps in another room. It's boring. A week later, she called me out of nowhere around 10 p.m. I was surprised, because she never calls, only texts, and why was she calling at this time? My son was sleeping, and my wife was getting ready for bed. I went to the garage, pretending to take out the garbage, and gave her a call. I asked her what was going on. She was crying hysterically and said that she had a big fight with her boyfriend at his place and he ended up throwing some of her stuff in the street. She said she was very drunk and needed someone to drive her to her parents' house, and she would come back the next day with her father to get her car. I could hear her boyfriend saying he would drive her and that he wouldn't let her drive, and her saying she didn't need him and had someone who would take care of her. All this while, I was on the phone with her. I told her I would come and to give me a few minutes to leave. She texted me the address, which was about 45 minutes away from where I lived. I had to come up with a story to tell my wife about why I was leaving the house at that time. I told her that work called and needed me to fix something because it broke and needed to be fixed before the morning so it wouldn't impact the business. My wife said she was sorry that I had to go and that she would wait up for me to make sure I was okay. I felt bad, but I had to go. I told her to go to bed. I drove all the way to the Girlified and texted her and called her when I arrived. She was waiting in her car and came to me crying, hugging me. She kept thanking me and saying how much she appreciated me being there for her. Then she started kissing me, a long, deep kiss. I can't deny that we were both into it, but she initiated it. I drove her home and as I was entering the house, my wife was waiting for me in the living room. She asked how work was and I said, the usual. She was staring at me non-stop with a look on her face like I had done something wrong. I asked her what was going on and she said I knew exactly what was going on. She then handed me a bunch of papers with highlighted numbers, which were our phone records with all the texts and calls I made on my phone. She was questioning the number of the girl I was talking to. She asked why I called that number before I left the house and I said it was the work phone number and they called me, like I told you, and I called them back. She said I also called them when I got there and I said yes, to have them open the door for me. She asked where my badge was and I said I left it in the car and didn't feel like walking all the way to the parking lot in the cold, so I just texted to have them open the door for me. At this point, she was questioning me with all kinds of questions, and I kept lying and lying to her. Until she said there were so many text messages between me and this person, even late at night, for a very long time. She was talking about texts from a couple of months ago when I was talking to this person a lot. She said I was cheating on her and that I had to admit it. I said I wasn't. She asked for my phone, and I said I wasn't going to give it to her. She said if I didn't give her my phone, it would be the end of our marriage. So, I said I never asked for her phone, and she threw it at me. She kept asking for my phone and said if I didn't give it to her, she would break up with me and get a divorce. Our son woke up because of the argument and that's where the conversation stopped. She took him to bed and started texting me saying it's over and she was going to find out who this person is and comfort her. She said she knew it was someone I worked with. After our son went to sleep, she came back and said she needed to know who this person was. She tried to call the number and I prevented her from doing that and told her she wasn't going to bring this stuff to my workplace. After a long argument and fight, she called her dad and said she was going to take our son and stay with him. She also sent an email to work saying she would be gone for a while. She left the house with our son, and I was left alone in the living room. After my wife left, I started thinking about what I could do to fix things. I came up with a story that would be believable and make it seem like everything was just a misunderstanding. I wanted to bring my wife back and earn her trust again. I also wanted to see my son again. While I was thinking, I received a text from my wife around 3 o'clock in the morning. She said, "I can't believe you did this to us." I replied, saying that I was sorry and asked for the chance to explain myself. I told her that I wanted to see her and our son the next day. She didn't respond. The next day, I texted her again and she responded after 4 hours. She agreed to see me but said that our son would stay with his grandpa and that she should come to the house alone. She asked me what was going on with this other person and I said that nothing was really going on. We just talked all the time as friends and that was it. We never did anything. She continued questioning me about work trips and staying late at work. I tried to explain that this person had a boyfriend and didn't go on work trips like I did. I tried to explain everything from all angles, hoping to get out of the situation. I don't think she fully believed me, but at the same time, I could see that part of her wanted us to work things out. I told her that this person was friendly to me when she was distant, and I didn't have many people to talk to. But really, nothing was going on, it was just casual conversation. She said that if I wanted her back, I needed to cut all communication with this other person. She doesn't care if I worked with her or not, and I need to find a new job. I said okay and told her that I will look for another job. Then I asked her if she was coming back home. She said she needed time to heal and needed to be distanced from me for now. She left, and then my girlfriend started texting me, thanking me for that night and asking if we could meet and hang out. I was bored at home with nothing to do, so I told her I would check my schedule and get back to her. In the evening, I FaceTimed with my son and said goodnight to both him and my wife. She said she was going to work shortly and that her dad would be watching our son. I texted my girlfriend and asked if she wanted to come over to my house. She texted me and said she was coming over at around 11 p.m. I turned off the garage and front door cameras. She texted me when she was close, and I invited her in through the garage door. We went downstairs because I didn't want to leave any evidence upstairs. We watched movies together and then started making out. She left very late. We both showed up at the office the next day and continued our affair at her office, in our car, and anywhere else we could. She showed me a side of the world that I had never seen before. I felt so young with her. She would wear and dress in whatever I liked and desired. She really took care of me at work more than my wife did at home. She was also extremely beautiful. When we were together, people would notice her beauty and keep looking at her. There were many guys at work who were hitting on her and trying to talk to and hang out with her, but she didn't give them a chance. It felt good to be around her, knowing that so many people wanted to be around her and couldn't. This went on for a few days until my wife texted me saying that she was coming back home. This meant the end of my affair and going back to the same old routine. I told my girlfriend that we couldn't do this anymore, meaning coming to my house, because my wife was coming back with my son from her parents' house. My girlfriend didn't know that my wife had left me or about the situation. I just told her that my wife was going to her parents because her daughter was sick and she needed to take care of her for a few days. When my wife came back home, I continued my affair at work and changed the way I communicated with the girlfriend to WhatsApp and Snapchat. The affair with my girlfriend went on for about 8 months. One day, we met for coffee at lunchtime, and she asked me how long this was going to continue. She said she was tired of being the side chick, tired of being my mistress, and tired of me doing things with my wife and not her. She asked me when I was going to move on with her and do things with her. She said she was tired of waiting for me to come to work so we could be together. I told her that I loved her and wished I could be with her, but I love my son and my wife and I've been through a lot together. I can't just leave them. She said that I didn't love my wife and never had, and if I did, I wouldn't cheat on her. I snapped and got upset. I didn't like what she said, and we got into a big argument. She kept telling me that I should do my wife a favor and end the marriage because I wasn't faithful to her. She was trying to make it seem like it was all my fault, like I was all over her. I told her straight out, "Did you forget that you were the one who pursued me in the first place? Did you forget that you were trying to get in touch with me after you told me you were trying to get things going with your boyfriend? Remember that night when you called me while you were drunk, asking me for a ride and then kissed me?" She started crying and I knew I was harsh with my words, but I couldn't believe she was trying to make it seem like it was all my fault when she had been messing with me for over a year, knowing that I was already in a relationship and married with a kid. She also mentioned that she was getting old and needed to focus on her future and move on from this situation because it was going nowhere. She said that at the end of the day, I was the only one benefiting from it and not her because I had a wife and family to go home to at night, while she didn't. She said that this was the only chance for us to be together if I really wanted to be with her, and if not, she was going to move on with her life. Without hesitation, I told her that I was going to be with my wife and child. She cried and left. After the argument with my girlfriend, I went home and blocked her number. I deleted her from my Snapchat and deleted the app as well. I also blocked her on WhatsApp. I took a few days off from work and started applying for other jobs. After about a month, she left and found another job. I stopped looking for jobs and continued working for the same company. I never told my wife about any of this and I never will. One day, while I was lying in bed with my wife, she asked me how my interaction with the other woman at the office was going. I pretended like I wasn't sure what she was talking about and she said, "The girl at the office that you used to talk to." I said, "Oh no, she left the company a long time ago. Things are going okay with my wife now. It's been over a year and I haven't heard from that person again."